sure they'll still think it was apocalyptic. Blake Lively, amazing or apocalyptic? So I gotta look up that writer and see what they think about that now. I'm sure they'll still think it was apocalyptic.
Alright, so let me set the stage a little bit. I deleted Instagram off my phone a while ago, not out of any self-righteous impulse to forgo social media, but just because I wasn't using it much, and I never really got anything out of it, whether productivity or entertainment. Previously, I'd only used it for memes or funny things in general, and I've never used it for the intent and its intent of posting pictures of yourself and what you're doing and viewing other people's. The extent of my sociality on it was confined to sending people memes, which even that had waned prior to my deleting it. I do log in now, just on a desktop browser, very infrequently, just to look around and to like any messages that I've been sent by old friends. And all of this is to excuse my lateness on the actual topic at hand. I made a brief and rudimentary scroll just a few minutes ago down my homepage to see the past month's worth of posts from the few accounts I follow. After some time down this trail of things you've chosen to see, you'll be shown posts from accounts you don't follow. And I'm not sure exactly how these are selected, whether it algorithmically prefers high traffic posts, one's own browsing idiosyncrasy, paid placement, or surely some complex mix of all of those. And whatever sins had been wrought finally led to me seeing, as the first of these posts suggested for me, a 7-week-old post, a vignette of the 2022 Met Gala. Now, I don't currently have the emotional capacity or spiritual bandwidth to articulate the extent of wrongness and the inhumanity I innately feel around the Met Gala. Disgusting, decadent, hedonistic, shameless, prideful, an affront to God. The visceral contempt that I feel, I'm not sure that it needs nuanced qualification. I think it's enough to say that it's bad in the most childlike verbiage and assessment. And if you need any further clarification, you should try spending a month living in a homeless shelter or in a war-torn country, and then be dropped off to watch a bunch of milli and billionaires wear outfits whose price tags could have fixed the situation that you were in. But it is a thing that happens yearly, and not something that I could really do anything about unless I made my way down to New York on May Day and ululated something about Allah. But this little vignette I saw from last year's event made me, in no uncertain sentiment, want to die. It crushes the spirit. And the featured crusher is a Blake Lively. Now, I did not know who this person was, but my assumption was verified, as it often is, by a rudimentary glance at a Wikipedia page. Hollywood cunt with Hollywood cunt parents. Now, I love looking at celebrity parents. Her father was Ernie Lively, an actor. He was born Ernest Brown, but changed his name to match his wife's. She actually got her name from a previous husband, but husband number 2, Ernie here, took it for some reason. So now their daughter, Blake, and Blake's brother and her 3 half-siblings are all named Lively. And her mother is a Hollywood talent scout. I think I forgot to say that. And all those siblings there, all of Ernie and his wife's kids, are also actors who have achieved at least some modicum of success in Hollywood. Isn't it crazy how that just happens? It's got to be genetics, and it couldn't be that the parents leveraged their connections and these kids' careers were handed to them as long as they managed to look semi-attractive. And even that being granted in part by the parents' money. Blake, in particular, is a big fan of rhinoplasty, having had apparently multiple nose jobs, in addition to whatever other plastic surgery you'd expect out of a soulless Hollywood hag. Now, just a quick indulgence. How many people, would you reckon, there in the crowd at the Met Gala, lauding and worshipping Blake, had, in that same year, used the term privileged in derision? How many of these people would have decried and called out white or male privilege as it pertains to the majority of the population, working class type people, and are here idolizing this goofy plastic bitch who is more privileged than the whitest, malest person I've ever met, and making her feel even more like a princess? I probably should get to the content of the video so that this makes more sense. What's depicted here, as understood by some text at the beginning of the clip, is the 2022 Dress of the Year and Blake Lively's dress transformation. It's she at the gala or whatever, walking up a big, lavish stairway with the carpet and the rose bush borders and whatever other sort of disgusting French monarchical decadence you could imagine to be there. But more relevant than her ascent up the steps is her programmatic stop at a halfway point. She stops walking and a team encloses in upon her. It's a team of 4 people who can most accurately be called servants. 3 men and 1 woman. The woman seems to be of higher rank, as while the other 3 are working, she's simply holding her hands out, as though to ensure that peasants keep their distance. As for the men, I don't know whether they would call themselves employees of Blake's Garments designer, interns to the dress designer or what have you, or maybe they're personal assistants to the actress herself, or maybe some sort of ushers for the event, or whatever sterilized, disingenuous, neoliberal language translates from servants. They're all dressed in modest, unassuming black, so as not to take any attention away from the shining star around whom the world orbits. And their charge? To enact the transformation. That transformation in question, by the way, could more accurately be called unfolding. They unfold and unclasp the fucking dress. That's their job and the point of the video. Now, it's a pink dress, and it already hangs about her height behind her. And she's not short either. You don't usually see a woman 5'10" and with that much plastic surgery, unless she used to be a man. But in any case, after they unfold the dress a bit, it's now blue. And even more of it is on the steps behind her. That's the whole fucking video. Dress was pink, then it's blue, it's big, and it's very shiny. Now, a reversible dress is whatever, who cares? And to stand performatively still while your team of servants reverse the dress and a mindless crowd lauds the self-indulgent look on your face is something a person ought to be for, even if they were in the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. But what a person should, in a fair world, be for is to do all that with a dress that costs more than a hard-working person makes in a year. Unfortunately, I could not find the exact price of the dress. But as a substitute figure, she also attended the gala in 2018. I think every year, but let's look at 2018. And her gown then, which does not seem to have been considered the best dress that year, was, and I'm quoting here, a red Versace gown that consisted of $2 million worth of Lorraine Shores jewelry. Now that big 2 million figure, the 2 with 6 zeros behind it, I think is referring to the jewelry alone. And I'm not sure what a full sum, that's the gown, the labor of designing it, and putting all of that jewelry onto it, I'm not sure what that would be. But let's be conservative and work with an even and a low-balled 2 million. Minimum wage in America is $7.25 an hour. So, in order to dress like Blake, making an honest living, you'd need to work at least 275,862 hours and some change, spending that money on nothing else. Not food or rent or anything. And, the observant listener, he may have noticed that that's more hours than there are in a year. And yes, he would be correct. That is in fact 31 and a half years. And we're talking like every second of those years. No sleeping, eating, breaking, or any of that. So if you worked a full third of your life, let's say that's 8 hours a day, no off days ever, and you slept 8 hours a day, and let's say the remaining 8 you used to work another job, to feed and house yourself and to clothe yourself beyond this garment. That puts the realistic figure at 94 and a half years. Her dress is worth a century of labor. Doesn't that make you want to die? Maybe I'm alone in my hatred for this. I really do encourage you to watch the clip. Just see for a moment the disgusting, self-satisfied, prideful look on her artificial face. The only defense of this type of situation could be that it's for the sake of art. It est the art of fashion, or dressmaking, or whatever. Personally, I don't think that's a good defense. But even if we are to believe that the high art of dressmaking is something sacred and to be exalted, then why does the garment have to be put on some privileged cunt? If it truly is about the artistry, then why not put it on a nameless model? At least with models, it's their job. Not what I'd call honest work, but at least they make a profession out of it. Blake Lively's job is, apart from being a child to well-connected parents, an actress. She's not acting. She's out of character, showing her genuine privilege. That it's on a celebrity reveals that none of this is about artistry. It's about worship, idolatry. Which brings me to the question of who is to blame. And in that perfect world, where I have autocracy over all, who is being put to death for this? Is it Blake? I wouldn't argue against that, but if someone handed me all of that luxury, I couldn't say for certain that I'd argue against that either. I don't blame the servants there on doing her dress. They're just working, and I doubt that that income will afford them a $2 million dress. What makes me particularly mad is the background of the video. All of the people there giving Blake her princess moment, in one of very many throughout her life, to be sure. People enthralled and mystified by some rich piece of shit in a dress. Every person in that crowd is an inexcusable coward for not throwing a stone or a bucket of paint at her. They prop up this institutional evil. They're a sort of inverted Ophanim, dark angels wheeling the throne of Satan. One very small thing I want to mention here at the end is an article from some gay little fashion website I came across Googling things for this. It's just a leech on the belly of the fashion industry as it pertains to normal people's fascination therewith. I'm guessing they get most of their traffic telling people where to get looks analogous to those seen on runways. So they're probably not to be taken too seriously, but they do seem to have some accuracy in their reflection of wide-held opinions. I won't get into the meat of the article because it's just as I've described, but the title is kind of fun. He goes, "Here's where to buy a reversible dress because Blake Lively is a genius." And Blake Lively's not a genius. This sort of thing tells us that the people who watch the Met Gala on TV are under the impression that the celebrities have designed their own costumes. As though Blake Lively took 3 months off from exploiting the labor of others and getting nose jobs to work dutifully every night in the little elven workshop in her basement, carefully crafting this oversized silken trash bag, sipping adrenochrome late into the night to fasten onto it more glitter and jewels. If you're a fellow actress, sure. Someone who knows no labor beyond sucking the thick, meaty teat of your rich parents and exploiting the retardation of the public, then I can see why you'd like to see what Blake Lively's dress looks like. But if you aren't, and if you're not an Italian dress designer making a fortune selling to these stupid pigs, then why are you watching the Met Gala? How are you watching the Met Gala? How does it not make you sick to your stomach? Think for 1 second how much better the world would be if its resources weren't funneled into propping up celebrity culture. If people decided no longer to submit to their rich and avaricious masters. I'll be honest, I think that violence is the answer. A metaphor that comes up Often when talking about the ultra-wealthy is the ivory tower, that these people are doing this or that without the limitations that the rest of us face, because they're safe aloft in their ivory towers. And that was relevant in one point in history, but I think it buries the lead nowadays. Yes, they are sequestered away in their gated communities while so much of the world burns. I think the COVID pandemic really illustrated that pretty well. But events like this one take place in plain view. This is happening at a fucking museum. They're right there. It's the rest of us who are at the curious elevation. They're not in an ivory tower. We're in a desolate hell. We are lower than we should be, looking up at lords and ladies from our garbly little holes in the ground. People at large deserve this inequality. It's pretty depressing, but it's hard to argue. You can open a history book right now and read about the French Revolution, where normal people decided that they'd had enough, bearing witness to decadence and unholy luxury, while they had none. They took out the guillotines, and God smiled upon them. Again, I think every person in that Met Gala crowd is a dickless coward for not doing something to ruin those cunts' day. Though I doubt really that any of the people in the crowd even have known real poverty. And you can't expect the well-fed to do what's right, if it means getting their hands a little dirty. And maybe violence is out of your taste anyway. So, here is my non-violent proposition. You get a big fucking cage, say an elephant's cage, something like that. Free an elephant from the zoo, because animal rights sit well with this crowd, and repurpose its cage. Then find some hungry kids. It shouldn't be hard to do. And you wouldn't know it from the $25 billion we've given to Ukraine since Biden has been in office, but we do have plenty of starving kids right here at home. Save the Children estimates that there are 12 million kids struggling with hunger in America. So you get some of them, particularly the really hungry looking ones, the emaciated types, and also grab a few homeless adults. Again, not hard to do. Security.org says there's about 500,000 homeless people on any given night in America. And let's get the really nasty ones, the type of homeless where you've given up on washing your face. Dirty, toothless, hungry, scraggly, mentally ill, and put them all into the cage. Obviously, make a little fucking wall between the kid side and the hobo side for the safety of the former. And really, if it's in the budget, maybe just a second cage is probably better. And you wheel that up to the Met Gala. Because a lot of these people probably wouldn't be able to see it otherwise. It would make their day to see all of these princesses in their beautiful dresses. And afterwards, give them some food. Obviously, it's not like we're trying to be inhumane. We're trying to uplift these poor people's lives by showing them the greatness of the American way. I know kids in cages is a borderline look these days, but we can't be sure what any of these people would do. And we have to protect Blake Lively at all costs.